Welcome to Radiant Wisdom, a place where stories become reflections and lessons guide us toward inner peace and resilience. In a world filled with noise and distractions, this is your space to pause, breathe, and rediscover the quiet strength within. We often forget how powerful we truly are. Life's challenges have a way of dimming our inner light, making us question our path. But it's precisely in those moments, when we feel lost or burdened, that the seeds of resilience begin to sprout. The power to rise again doesn't come from the absence of struggle. It comes from how we choose to respond to it. Today we invite you to listen to a story that embodies this truth. A story that shows how willpower, when nurtured with mindfulness and purpose, can transform our greatest pain into our greatest triumph. This isn't just a story about success, it's a story about becoming. It's about facing adversity, trusting the process, and allowing life's challenges to reveal the incredible potential that lies dormant within us. Before we begin, if you find meaning in what you hear today, consider supporting our journey by liking, sharing, and subscribing to Radiant Wisdom. Your engagement allows us to continue sharing these moments of reflection and connection. And if this story speaks to your heart, we invite you to leave a comment below. Share your thoughts or your own experiences of resilience and growth. We'd love to hear your voice in this shared space of learning and encouragement. Now, let's take a moment to center ourselves before the story unfolds. Wherever you are, whether you're sitting at home, walking in nature, or simply listening with an open heart, take a slow, deep breath in. Feel the air filling your lungs. Then release it gently. With each breath, remind yourself that you are present. You are here. When we slow down and become present, we begin to see life not as a series of obstacles, but as a collection of lessons, a path where every step, even the difficult ones, carries meaning. In today's story, we'll meet someone who faced an unimaginable challenge. He was told he would never walk again, that his life would be defined by limitation and loss. But he chose to see things differently. He didn't ignore the pain. Instead, he embraced it, moved through it, and used it as fuel to build a life beyond what anyone thought possible. His journey is a reminder that the limits others place on us don't define us. Our choices do. In the quiet moments when everything feels uncertain, we can still choose hope over despair, perseverance over resignation. In Buddhist philosophy, the concept of right effort teaches that our strength is not about forcing outcomes, but about cultivating the conditions for growth. Willpower, when aligned with mindfulness and compassion, becomes a powerful force, not one that pushes through life recklessly, but one that flows with purpose and resilience. As you listen to this story, I invite you to reflect on your own life. What challenges have shaped you? What lessons have your setbacks taught you? And where in your heart is that quiet voice, the one that whispers, "Keep going"? This is more than a story. It's an invitation to reconnect with the belief that you too have the strength to rise, to heal, and to move forward with grace and courage. So, take another deep breath. Let your heart be open to whatever insights this moment may bring, and when you're ready, let's begin. The Seed of Willpower. Every great journey begins with a single step, and every act of resilience begins with a quiet but profound decision: I will not give up. This decision is the seed of willpower, a small but powerful spark that has the potential to ignite extraordinary transformation. Yet, like any seed, it must be nurtured, strengthened, and given the right conditions to grow. The story I'm about to share is not just about survival. It's about courage, purpose, and the incredible strength that can arise when we refuse to accept limitations placed upon us by the world, or even by ourselves. In a quiet rural town, there was a young boy who was given a simple yet important responsibility: to arrive early each morning and light the school's furnace so that the classroom would be warm when his classmates and teacher arrived. It was a task that he took seriously, proud to contribute in a meaningful way. But one winter morning, as the boy tended to the fire, something went terribly wrong. A spark ignited where it shouldn't have, and flames quickly engulfed the small schoolhouse. The fire spread with terrifying speed. By the time help arrived, the boy was trapped inside, unconscious and badly burned. When they pulled him from the wreckage, he was barely alive. His legs had suffered the worst of the burns, severely charred and damaged beyond what anyone thought could be saved. He was rushed to the nearest hospital, and the doctors, though skilled and compassionate, didn't believe he would survive. They told his mother in hushed tones that she should prepare for the worst. His injuries were too grave, and if by some miracle he lived, he would never walk again. His lower body had been too severely damaged. The boy, slipping in and out of consciousness, overheard the doctor's grim prognosis. Even in his haze of pain, those words hit him like a thunderclap. He will never walk again. His heart broke, and tears streamed down his face. But amidst the pain, a small but fierce resolve began to take shape, a whisper in his mind that grew stronger with each passing breath. I will not accept this. I will live, and I will walk again. Willpower in the face of hopelessness. In Buddhism, it is often said that the human spirit has the capacity to transcend suffering, but only if we choose to face it with clarity and intention. Suffering, when met with resistance and fear, can lead to despair. But suffering, when embraced with mindfulness and purpose, can become a gateway to transformation. The boy understood this intuitively, though he didn't have the words for it. He knew only one thing: he would not allow his life to end in despair. He would fight, not out of anger or defiance, but because there was something within him that longed to experience life fully. Weeks passed, and the boy, against all odds, began to recover. The doctors were astonished. They had expected him to fade, but he fought to live. However, the battle was far from over. Though he survived, his legs were rendered useless. He had no feeling or strength in them, and the doctors told him that no amount of rehabilitation would change that. But the boy's heart had already been set. He was determined to walk again. The first steps of faith. Unable to accept life confined to a wheelchair, he began to find ways to move, first by dragging himself across the floor, then by using his arms to pull himself outside into the yard. His mother watched with a mix of heartbreak and admiration as her son, weakened but resolute, dragged himself through the grass toward the fence. Day after day, he repeated this routine. Slowly, painfully, he began pulling himself upright using the fence posts, supporting his fragile frame with trembling arms. He took no miraculous steps, not yet, but every inch he gained was a victory. The boy's persistence began to leave a physical mark on the earth. As he dragged himself along the fence each day, his body carved a visible path in the dirt, a reminder of the effort he poured into his goal. His neighbors saw it and shook their heads in disbelief, but the boy never let their doubts deter him. Each time he made his way to the fence, he whispered to himself, "One day I will walk." The miracle of consistency. With time, the boy's determination bore fruit. His legs, though frail, began to regain sensation. Slowly, strength returned, not because of any medical breakthrough, but because of his unwavering will. He stood for the first time on his own, then took one unsteady step, then another. Eventually, those steps became strides. The boy not only learned to walk again, he learned to run. He went on to pursue his dreams, competing in athletics, attending college, and ultimately becoming an Olympic-level runner. That young boy was Dr. Glenn Cunningham, once called the fastest man on earth in the 1-mile race. The lesson of the seed. The story of Glenn Cunningham reminds us that willpower begins as a quiet, unassuming seed, but when nourished with patience, resilience, and self-belief, it grows into something unbreakable. This is not a story of defying medical science. It's a story of discovering the latent strength that resides in all of us. We may not all face challenges as visible as Glenn's, but we all have our own fires to endure. our own moments of uncertainty and pain. Willpower is what allows us to rise from the ashes, to carve new paths, and to believe in our own potential when others cannot. As you listen to this story, remember, every seed of willpower you plant in your life today may grow into a miracle tomorrow. All it takes is the courage to begin. Embracing adversity with purpose. Adversity, like the harsh winds that shape the tallest trees, has the power to either break us or strengthen us. It all depends on how we respond. Life often places obstacles in our path, but within every hardship lies an opportunity to discover our true potential. The story of Glenn Cunningham is a powerful example of how adversity, when embraced with purpose and resilience, can become a stepping stone toward extraordinary growth. When Glenn awoke in the hospital bed, the physical pain was immense, but the emotional weight was even heavier. The world he knew, the boy who ran freely through the fields, who felt the earth beneath his feet, was now gone. Instead, he was left with legs that felt more like lifeless anchors. The doctor's words echoed in his mind, "He will never walk again." For most, those words would have been a final verdict, but for Glenn, they became a challenge. Instead of focusing on what he had lost, he began to focus on what remained: the strength of his spirit, the love of his family, and the deep-seated belief that life still held meaning. This shift in focus was not easy. It required immense courage and the ability to see beyond his immediate suffering. Finding strength in acceptance. In Buddhism, there is a teaching known as turning poison into medicine. It means that even the most painful experiences can become sources of growth and healing if we learn to see them differently. But this doesn't mean denying or suppressing our pain. Instead, it's about fully accepting the reality of our circumstances and then choosing how we respond to them. Glenn didn't deny the severity of his injuries. He knew that his life would never be the same, but instead of sinking into despair, he made the conscious decision to work with what he had. He accepted that he couldn't change the past, but he could still shape his future. Acceptance in this sense was not passive, it was an act of immense willpower. By embracing his circumstances, Glenn freed himself from the burden of "what if" and "why me," and instead asked, "What can I do now?" That simple question became the compass that guided him through his recovery. The power of small actions. In those early days, Glenn's progress was almost imperceptible. His legs were weak and unresponsive. Moving them even slightly felt like trying to lift a mountain. But instead of viewing the task as insurmountable, Glenn broke it down into small, manageable steps. Quite literally. He began by simply dragging himself out of bed and across the floor. Though painful and slow, these small acts of defiance were victories in their own right. Each inch gained was proof that he was not defeated. In Buddhism, there's a concept called right effort. The idea that progress is not measured by grand, sweeping changes, but by consistent, intentional steps. The journey of 1,000 miles, as the saying goes, begins with a single step. Glenn's journey began with a single movement, repeated day after day until it became strength. Every morning, he would pull himself toward the yard, determined to feel the sun on his face and the grass beneath his hands. His mother, though heartbroken, never stopped encouraging him. She knew that while she couldn't carry his burden for him, her unwavering support was a crucial part of his healing, creating purpose from pain. As Glenn made his way to the wooden fence that lined the yard, he saw it not as a boundary, but as an ally. Each day, he used the fence to pull himself upright, holding on tightly as his body trembled. The fence became a silent witness to his struggle, a companion to his quiet triumphs. He fell many times, the bruises and scrapes were countless, but for every fall, he rose again. His efforts carved a visible path in the earth around the fence, a dirt trail that symbolized his resilience. This simple act of moving toward the fence each day may have seemed small to others, but to Glenn, it was a declaration. I am still here. I am still moving forward. When we face adversity, it's easy to focus on what we've lost. But Glenn's story teaches us that true resilience comes from finding purpose in the midst of pain. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" we can ask, "How can I grow from this?" Purpose gives suffering meaning. It transforms hardship into a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Redefining success. Glenn's success was not defined by how fast he could recover, but by his refusal to give up. His victory was not the absence of pain, but his ability to move forward in spite of it. Over time, his small victories added up. First, he stood on his own. Then he took a few tentative steps. Those steps became strides, and those strides became runs. Eventually, Glenn did the unimaginable. He became a competitive runner, shattering records and earning the title of the fastest man in the world. What made his success so extraordinary was not just his physical achievement, but the inner transformation that led him there. His journey reminds us that success is not about avoiding adversity, but about embracing it with purpose. We may not all face the same challenges as Glenn, but we all encounter moments that test our resolve. In those moments, we have a choice: to let adversity define us or to let it refine us. Final thought. Adversity, when met with purpose and courage, becomes a powerful teacher. It strips away the superficial and reveals who we truly are. Glenn Cunningham's story is a testament to the fact that our greatest limitations often contain the seeds of our greatest strengths. When we choose to embrace our struggles instead of fearing them, we discover that even the harshest winds can help us grow. In your own life, remember, every setback holds the potential for a comeback. Your purpose, like Glenn's, can turn adversity into the very foundation of your strength. The role of mindfulness in perseverance. When we think of perseverance, we often imagine sheer grit, pushing forward despite every obstacle, never stopping, never resting. But true perseverance is not a relentless sprint fueled by desperation. Instead, it is a mindful journey, one in which we learn to slow down, observe our experience without judgment, and move forward with clarity and intention. In Buddhism, mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, aware of our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without becoming overwhelmed by them. It teaches us to remain calm in the face of chaos and to see our challenges as part of a greater path. Mindfulness transforms perseverance from a battle of brute strength into an act of conscious resilience. Glenn Cunningham's journey was not just a physical battle, it was a practice of mindful perseverance. Every small victory, every setback, every painful inch forward became an opportunity for him to deepen his awareness and reconnect with his purpose. Learning to sit with pain. When Glenn first began his recovery, the physical pain was unbearable. Each movement felt like fire coursing through his body, a cruel reminder of what he had endured. Most of us, when faced with pain, physical or emotional, react instinctively by trying to escape it. We distract ourselves, resist it, or try to push it away. But pain, when resisted, often becomes louder. It demands to be acknowledged. Mindfulness teaches us a different way. Instead of fighting the pain, we learn to sit with it, to breathe through it, and to observe it without panic. Glenn may not have known the formal teachings of mindfulness, but he instinctively practiced it. When he felt the sharp sting in his legs as he tried to move, he didn't let fear consume him. Instead, he took a breath, acknowledged the pain, and focused on what he could do in that moment, one small movement at a time. This practice of mindful observation allowed him to stay present rather than drowning in thoughts of, "What if I can't do this?" or "Why me?" Instead of spiraling into despair, he stayed grounded in the present task, pulling himself forward inch by inch with quiet determination. Presence over perfection. One of the hardest lessons in perseverance is letting go of perfection. When life doesn't go according to plan, it's easy to fall into the trap of self-criticism. We tell ourselves that we should be stronger, faster, or further along. But mindfulness invites us to replace self-judgment with self-compassion. Glenn's progress was painfully slow. He spent months simply working toward the goal of standing on his own 2 feet. It would have been easy for him to fall into the trap of frustration, to believe that his efforts were insignificant because they didn't yield immediate results. But mindfulness teaches us that progress is not measured in leaps and bounds, but in our ability to stay present and committed, no matter how small the steps may seem. Glenn's journey was a reminder that true perseverance is not about perfection, it's about presence. When he focused on the act of moving rather than obsessing over the outcome, he allowed himself to grow stronger not only in body but in mind. He learned that every moment of effort, no matter how small, was part of something greater. The calm within the storm. Life's challenges often feel like storms, chaotic, overwhelming, and beyond our control. Mindfulness gives us an anchor in these storms, a way to find stillness even as the winds of adversity rage around us. Glenn's life was filled with moments of uncertainty. He didn't know if his legs would ever regain their strength. He didn't know if he would ever run again, but mindfulness helped him stay grounded in the things he did know. He could feel the warmth of the sun on his face. He could hear the steady encouragement in his mother's voice. He could control his breath, his focus, and his determination. These small moments of awareness became his refuge. They reminded him that even in the midst of hardship, there were still reasons to be grateful, still moments of peace to be found. The inner voice of encouragement. Mindfulness also cultivates self-awareness, the ability to notice the stories we tell ourselves. When faced with failure or setbacks, our minds often fill with negative thoughts. I'll never succeed, I'm not strong enough, or what's the point? These thoughts can become barriers that stop us from moving forward. But Glenn's story shows us that perseverance is not just a physical act, it's a mental one. His greatest challenge was not just regaining the use of his legs, but silencing the inner critic that whispered doubt. Through mindful awareness, Glenn learned to replace those voices of fear with affirmations of hope. I am stronger than I know. I am moving forward. This internal shift is what allowed him to transform pain into power. Instead of being consumed by fear and doubt, he practiced self-compassion and patience, allowing his mind to support his journey rather than sabotage it. Moving forward with intention. When Glenn finally regained the ability to walk and later run, it wasn't just his legs that had grown stronger, it was his entire being. His perseverance wasn't driven by desperation or the need to prove himself to others. It was fueled by a quiet, mindful commitment to living fully, no matter the obstacles. In our own lives, we can draw from this example. Mindful perseverance asks us to slow down and be fully present with whatever arises, whether it's pain, doubt, or progress. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to see adversity not as a roadblock, but as part of the journey itself. We come to understand that perseverance is not about how quickly we reach the finish line, it's about how we walk the path, one step at a time, with patience, self-compassion, and a deep trust in our own resilience. As you reflect on Glenn's story, ask yourself, what small step can I take today? How can I meet my challenges with mindfulness and grace? Remember, every mindful breath, every intentional step is a sign of your quiet strength. Unlocking hidden potential through hardship. Hardship is often seen as something to avoid, an unwelcome interruption to the comfort and routine of our lives. But in Buddhist philosophy, hardship is viewed as a profound teacher, capable of unlocking strengths we never knew we possessed. Like a lotus flower that only blooms in the mud, our most remarkable potential often emerges in our darkest moments. The story of Glenn Cunningham reminds us that hardship doesn't have to define us, it can refine us. His journey from devastation to triumph is proof that within every setback lies the possibility for growth and transformation. What seemed like an unbearable tragedy became the very crucible that forged his resilience, grit, and unbreakable will. The hidden power of struggle. When Glenn awoke in his hospital bed, his future seemed bleak. The doctors believed his best hope was survival, not recovery. But what they didn't see was the potential hidden beneath his injuries, the part of him that had yet to awaken. In life, hardship often strips away our illusions. It takes from us the things we once relied upon, our routines, our comforts, even our sense of identity. But in that empty space, something extraordinary can begin to grow. When we are no longer able to move forward in the way we once did, we are forced to discover new paths and unearth new strengths. Glenn's hardship forced him to tap into a reservoir of inner strength that might have remained dormant if his life had continued without challenge. Instead of seeing his injured legs as the end of his journey, he saw them as a beginning, a chance to prove to himself what he was truly capable of. In Buddhist teachings, there is a concept called taming the mind. When life presents us with difficulties, our minds can react with fear, anger, and doubt. But hardship, when approached mindfully, can teach us to quiet those voices and discover the courage that lies beneath them. This is what Glenn did. He didn't allow his fear to dictate his story. Instead, he used his struggle as an opportunity to cultivate patience, focus, and a fierce commitment to his dreams. Reframing failure as growth. One of the greatest lessons hardship can teach us is that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. Glenn's path was anything but smooth. He fell countless times in his attempts to stand. His legs gave out. His body ached. But instead of labeling these moments as failures, he saw them as steps in his journey towards strength. When we view hardship as a permanent setback, we close ourselves off from growth. But when we reframe it as a necessary challenge, we unlock our ability to adapt, learn, and improve. In Buddhist philosophy, this is known as transforming the mindset. It's the practice of viewing obstacles not as barriers, but as opportunities for expansion. Glenn's small daily efforts may have seemed insignificant to others, but to him they were victories. Each inch he gained was proof that he was capable of progress, no matter how slow. These small moments of perseverance began to build momentum, and what once seemed impossible became reality. Not through sudden leaps, but through steady, mindful progress. Hardship reveals our inner resources. One of the most profound gifts of hardship is that it reveals our inner resources, strengths we may not have recognized when life was easier. Glenn's journey showed that the human spirit possesses untapped potential, but it often takes struggle to access it. When Glenn's legs felt lifeless, he relied on his arms to drag himself forward. When he couldn't feel the ground beneath him, he relied on his vision to guide him toward his goal. Each time one part of him faltered, he discovered another resource within himself. This reflects an important Buddhist teaching. When one door closes, another opens. Just as nature finds ways to adapt and survive, we too can discover new strengths when we stop clinging to what we've lost and begin focusing on what remains. Glenn didn't dwell on what he couldn't do. He poured his energy into what he could do. Hardship stripped away everything he thought he needed and left him with something far more powerful: his will to rise again. The strength of resilience. Resilience is not just about bouncing back. It's about evolving, adapting, and finding meaning in our suffering. Hardship has a way of deepening our character. It teaches us patience when progress is slow, compassion when we see others struggle, and humility when we finally reach our goals. For Glenn, resilience wasn't just about running again. It was about transforming who he was at the core. He didn't just reclaim his life, he rebuilt it with a strength that could only have come from his experience of pain and struggle. The resilience he cultivated not only allowed him to become an athlete, but also inspired millions. His story became a testament to the fact that no setback, no matter how devastating, has the power to permanently define us unless we allow it to. Hardship as a teacher. In Buddhist practice, hardship is seen as a great teacher, not because it is pleasant, but because it strips away distraction and forces us to confront who we are. When everything is taken from us, we come face to face with our true essence. Glenn's hardship taught him that he was not defined by his physical limitations, but by his spirit. He learned that strength isn't found in avoiding struggle, but in moving through it with grace. His story reminds us that our potential is not determined by our circumstances, but by our ability to persevere, reflect, and grow. The hidden lotus. Just as the lotus blooms most beautifully in the mud, so too can our greatest strengths emerge from the most difficult times. When life feels overwhelming, remember that hardship is not the end. It is the beginning of transformation. As you navigate your own challenges, ask yourself, what strength is this moment asking me to discover? What potential within me is waiting to be unlocked? When we stop fearing hardship and begin to see it as part of our growth, we unlock the hidden lotus within, a strength that is not shaken by life's storms, but blossoms because of them. Trusting the connection between effort and grace. When we talk about success and overcoming hardship, we often celebrate effort, the sheer force of will that drives someone to persevere. But effort alone, though essential, is only part of the story. In Buddhism, there's a profound recognition of grace, the unseen interconnected forces that support us along the way. These forces may come from the love of others, the kindness of strangers, or the mysterious alignment of events in our favor. True perseverance is born from a balance between our effort and an openness to receive grace. Glenn Cunningham's remarkable journey wasn't just about his personal determination. It was also about the unseen hands that lifted him during his darkest moments. His story teaches us that while we must put in the work, we must also learn to trust the connections that hold us, guide us, and sometimes even carry us when our strength is running low. Effort, the foundation of growth. Glenn's recovery was fueled by immense effort. Every day, he dragged himself to the fence, using his arms to pull his limp body across the yard. The raw effort it took to move even a few inches was staggering. But effort, when driven by a clear purpose, can create momentum. In Buddhism, right effort is one of the pillars of the Eightfold Path. It emphasizes not just any kind of striving, but intentional effort. Effort that nurtures what is wholesome and lets go of what is harmful. Glenn didn't pour his energy into regret or self-pity, even though he had every reason to. Instead, he focused on what he could control. One pull forward, one attempt to stand, one whispered affirmation that he would walk again. Effort like this can feel lonely, as though the entire burden of change rests solely on our shoulders. But as Glenn's story shows, our effort creates a ripple effect. It invites grace into our lives in ways we may not immediately recognize. Grace, the silent companion. Grace often arrives quietly in the form of moments, people, or circumstances that help us along the way. For Glenn, grace appeared in many forms. The unwavering love of his mother, who cared for him tirelessly and encouraged him to keep moving forward. The steady, grounding presence of the fence, which supported his weight when his legs couldn't, and even the passage of time, which gave his body the chance to heal. In Buddhism, there is a deep belief in interbeing, the idea that all things are interconnected. Our actions don't happen in isolation, and neither do our struggles. While we may think of ourselves as solitary in our hardships, the truth is that we are held by countless threads of connection. Threads of love, compassion, and unseen support. Glenn's effort created space for these threads of grace to weave themselves into his story. His mother's gentle encouragement, the prayers of family and neighbors, the resilience of his body as it slowly healed, all of these things work together. Grace doesn't diminish our effort, it amplifies it. It's as if the universe responds to our commitment by opening doors we didn't even know existed. But to receive grace, we must also be open to it, surrendering without giving up. One of the hardest lessons in perseverance is learning the difference between surrender and giving up. Giving up means abandoning hope, but surrender means trusting the process. It means recognizing that while we must do our part, there are things beyond our control that we must entrust to something greater, whether that something is faith, love, or simply the passage of time. Glenn's story exemplifies this balance. While he put in every ounce of effort he had, he also trusted the process of healing. He didn't know exactly how or when he would walk again, he only knew that he would. Instead of demanding immediate results, he allowed his small daily efforts to compound over time. He surrendered to the timing of his recovery, trusting that as long as he kept showing up, progress would come. In Buddhist practice, this surrender is often described as letting go of attachment to the outcome. When we obsess over results, we create anxiety and frustration. But when we focus on the present moment and trust that our effort will bear fruit in its own time, we free ourselves from that burden. Glenn embodied this truth. He didn't wake up one morning expecting to run a mile. He simply focused on getting a little stronger each day. The harmony between effort and grace. The harmony between effort and grace is like the relationship between the earth and the sky. The earth provides stability and nourishment, while the sky brings light, rain, and wind. Without one, the other cannot thrive. Our effort grounds us. It keeps us moving forward. But grace, like the rain, nourishes our journey in ways we cannot always see or predict. Glenn's story reminds us that while our personal strength is important, it's okay to lean on the support of others, to trust in timing, and to believe in forces beyond ourselves. His mother's compassion, the support of his community, and even the simple structure of the fence were all forms of grace that complemented his effort. They became a chorus of unseen forces that cheered him on, even when he felt alone. The strength to accept help. It takes humility and wisdom to recognize that we don't have to walk our paths alone. For many of us, asking for help or receiving support can feel like weakness, but Glenn's story shows that true strength comes from knowing when to accept help. Buddhism teaches that to be human is to be interconnected. No one succeeds in isolation. Just as a tree relies on the soil, sun, and rain, we rely on the kindness of others, the wisdom of those who came before us, and the invisible grace that flows through life. Final reflection. Effort and grace are two sides of the same coin. Effort teaches us to show up, to persevere, and to believe in our potential. Grace teaches us to trust, to be patient, and to recognize the beauty of the connections that support us. Glenn Cunningham's story reminds us that life isn't just about how hard we push. It's also about how open we are to the gifts that come along the way. When we trust the balance between effort and grace, we discover a profound truth. We are capable of more than we ever imagined, not because we walk the path alone, but because the universe walks with us. As you reflect on your own journey, ask yourself, am I allowing space for grace even as I put in my best effort? Am I trusting the process as much as I'm working toward my goal? When effort and grace walk hand in hand, even the steepest path can lead to extraordinary heights. Gratitude and humility, the foundation of sustained success. When we think about success, we often focus on external milestones, achievements, recognition, and the fulfillment of long-held dreams. But true, lasting success is not measured solely by the heights we reach. It's defined by how we carry ourselves once we arrive. Gratitude and humility are the cornerstones that keep us grounded, even as we rise. Without them, success can become hollow, an endless pursuit of more, driven by ego rather than purpose. Glenn Cunningham's story is not just remarkable because of what he accomplished, but because of the grace with which he handled his success. He transformed unimaginable hardship into triumph, but he never lost sight of the people, moments, and forces that helped him along the way. His story teaches us that sustained success is built not on pride, but on gratitude and humility. Gratitude, recognizing the unseen hands that lift us. After Glenn defied the odds and learned to walk again, then run, and eventually become one of the fastest runners in the world, he could have easily credited his victory solely to his own willpower, but he didn't. He often spoke about the quiet but powerful contributions of others, his mother's unwavering care, the support of his teachers and friends, and the opportunities that came his way because of the kindness of strangers. Gratitude is a powerful practice that allows us to see the bigger picture. It shifts our focus from "look at what I've done" to "look at what I've received." In Buddhism, gratitude is seen as a practice of awakening. It helps us become more aware of the interconnected nature of life. We begin to understand that no success is truly individual. Our accomplishments are supported by countless unseen hands, the encouragement of loved ones, the sacrifices of those who came before us, and even the wisdom we draw from painful lessons. Glenn never forgot the sacrifices his mother made to care for him during his recovery. He remembered the way she patiently helped him exercise his legs, even when it seemed hopeless. His gratitude for her strength became a source of inspiration for him, a reminder that his success was built on love as much as effort. Practicing gratitude doesn't diminish our achievements, it deepens them. When we take time to recognize the contributions of others, our victories become richer, not because we lose sight of our effort, but because we honor the full tapestry of experiences and relationships that made success possible. Humility, staying grounded amidst success. Humility is often misunderstood as weakness or self-deprecation. But in truth, humility is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who we are, not needing to prove our worth through status or recognition. It's the ability to remain grounded even when we've reached great heights. Glenn's humility shone through in how he lived his life after becoming a champion. Despite breaking records and earning the admiration of the world, he never became arrogant or self-important. He continued to work hard, stay disciplined, and treat those around him with kindness and respect. His achievements didn't inflate his ego, they strengthened his sense of purpose. In Buddhism, humility is seen as the antidote to pride, the kind of pride that blinds us to our limitations and disconnects us from others. When we forget humility, we risk becoming trapped in the illusion of self-sufficiency, believing that we've succeeded entirely on our own. But humility reminds us that success is fleeting if we disconnect from our values and the people who have supported us along the way. The danger of ego in success. Many people who achieve success fall into the trap of ego. They begin to believe that their achievements make them superior, that their value is tied to their accomplishments. But this mindset can lead to isolation and dissatisfaction. The more we cling to our status or achievements, the more fragile our sense of self becomes. Glenn avoided this trap because his success was never about proving himself to others. It was about honoring his journey and the resilience that had carried him through. He didn't see his victories as a chance to stand above others, but as a testament to the power of perseverance, hope, and grace. In Buddhist teachings, it's said that the true purpose of success is to serve others. When we succeed, we have a responsibility to share our wisdom, to uplift those who are struggling, and to remember that our achievements mean little if they don't inspire kindness and connection. Glenn's humility allowed him to use his platform to inspire others. He became a beacon of hope, not because he boasted about his accomplishments, but because he lived as a reminder that resilience and gratitude can overcome even the greatest odds. Gratitude and humility as anchors for inner peace. Gratitude and humility are more than just virtues. They are the foundations of lasting inner peace. Success without gratitude can leave us feeling restless, always chasing the next achievement. Success without humility can distance us from our true selves and from others. But when we practice both, we remain steady, no matter where life takes us. Glenn's journey teaches us that success isn't just about crossing the finish line. It's about how we walk the path. It's about appreciating each step, each struggle, and each helping hand along the way. By cultivating gratitude, we acknowledge the beauty and interconnectedness of life. By practicing humility, we remain open to growth and continue learning long after we've reached our goals. A life of true success. In the end, Glenn Cunningham's greatest achievement wasn't his world record. It was the life he built, shaped by resilience, gratitude, and humility. His story reminds us that true success is not defined by medals or accolades, but by the way we live with integrity, kindness, and purpose. As you reflect on your own journey, ask yourself, who has supported me on my path? What moments of grace have helped me move forward? How can I practice humility even in moments of success? When we make gratitude and humility a part of our daily practice, we cultivate a success that is not fragile or fleeting, but enduring and meaningful. Like Glenn, we can build lives that not only rise above adversity, but also inspire others to believe in their own potential. In your own moments of victory, remember to pause, to give thanks, and to stay grounded. For it is in these moments of stillness and reflection that true success finds its roots. Life lesson. Glenn Cunningham's story is not just a tale of triumph over adversity. It is a profound reminder of the quiet but extraordinary power that resides within each of us. His life teaches us that willpower is not about ignoring pain or forcing our way through difficulties. It is about embracing the journey with resilience, mindfulness, and purpose. In the face of unimaginable hardship, Glenn didn't simply fight to survive, he chose to live. He chose to trust in his ability to rise again, even when everything and everyone around him suggested that he wouldn't. His journey from a hospital bed to becoming the fastest man in the world wasn't defined solely by his physical achievements, but by the transformation of his spirit. His greatest victory was not the records he set, but the example he became. The strength within all of us. Disconflicted. The lesson here isn't just about running faster or recovering from injury. It's about discovering the limitless potential we carry within ourselves. Life will inevitably present us with moments of hardship, moments that make us question our path and our strength. In those moments, we have a choice. We can let those hardships define us, or we can let them refine us. We can listen to the voices that say, "You can't," or we can listen to the quiet, persistent whisper within that says, "Keep going." Like Glenn, we all have untapped reserves of strength waiting to be awakened. The key to unlocking this potential lies not in grand gestures, but in the small, deliberate choices we make each day. The choice to get back up after we fall, the choice to believe in progress even when it seems slow, the choice to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than as roadblocks. The role of resilience, grace, and gratitude. Glenn's story reminds us that perseverance doesn't mean walking the path alone. Just as he leaned on the love of his mother, the strength of his community, and the simple support of the fence that helped him stand, we too must recognize and honor the forces that support us. Resilience is not about refusing help. It's about embracing grace when it comes. But resilience without gratitude can harden into pride, and effort without humility can become isolation. True strength comes from recognizing that our victories are never ours alone. They are shaped by the kindness, love, and wisdom that surround us. Gratitude keeps us connected to our humanity, while humility reminds us that every success is an opportunity to serve and inspire others. In this way, the journey of personal growth becomes something larger than ourselves. It becomes a way to uplift and strengthen those around us. Your journey forward. As you reflect on Glenn's story, ask yourself, what challenges am I facing right now? What lessons can I find within them? Who or what is supporting me in ways I may not have fully recognized? The answers to these questions can help shift your perspective. You may not yet see the finish line, but you can take the next step with purpose. Remember that even the most daunting journeys begin with small, intentional actions. Whether you're recovering from a setback, chasing a dream, or simply trying to find your way forward, the lesson remains the same. Your strength is not determined by your circumstances. It is determined by your willingness to rise again, no matter how many times you fall. Final reflection. True success is not about reaching the top of the mountain. It's about who we become along the way. It's about the resilience we build, the wisdom we gain, and the gratitude we cultivate. Like Glenn, we all have the power to turn hardship into purpose, setbacks into stepping stones, and dreams into reality. As you move through life's challenges, remember, you are stronger than you think, more capable than you believe, and more connected than you realize. Trust in your effort, stay open to grace, and never underestimate the quiet strength that grows from within. Thank you for listening to Radiant Wisdom. If this story resonated with you, we invite you to like, share, and subscribe to continue this journey of learning and reflection. And always remember, your story, like Glenn's, has the power to inspire others. Until next time, may you walk your path with courage, compassion, and unwavering faith in your potential.